There's something about human nature that needs these strange sensations and these unusual sensations that you can't get safely in everyday life. And they are so sure that people need them that they put all that money into them.
And people will pay, as you said, good money, wait for hours for that 1 minute of gratification to the senses. What is it about it? It's a Top Gun analogy.
That's a good analogy. We're kind of bored and we're lazy in society nowadays. I think that's the best way to describe it. And I include there is something about human nature that needs these strange sensations and these unusual sensations that you can't get safely in everyday life. And they are so sure that people need them that they put all that money into them.
And people will pay, as you said, good money, wait for hours for that 1 minute of gratification to the senses. What is it about us that is chasing this need for speed, if you want to use a Top Gun analogy?
That's a good analogy. We're kind of bored and we're lazy in society nowadays. I think that's the best way to describe it. And I include myself in all of this. We really do live in a pretty safe world. We're no longer getting chased by saber-toothed tigers, but I think I like to use the phrase twitchy caveman. We're still the same twitchy caveman that we always were. We still have this inbuilt need to stay primed. And you're not going to get that from, binging on Netflix and worrying about getting fat like I am. We just don't get that anymore. So we get it in different ways. We pay to get it by going on these rides. And these rides very accurately plumb primal fears like falling or being suddenly launched out of control, which, like I said before, you just can't get safely in society anymore. But we clearly have a need for them. So that's why I think it's kind of funny that often when people find out what I'm doing and, when I get the opportunity to go on these research trips, they're like, well, that's just the dumbest thing we've ever heard.
Sounds like the dream job, visiting theme parks and adventure parks and fun places all over the world. I mean, God,
I think so.
I bet you get a few people asking to carry your bags.
I get really popular just before I go on a trip with my friends. They're all like, hey, so you're going to take us this time? But when people sort of find out what you're doing, they first of all think it's dumb. And then when you point out how we are all really obsessed with our leisure time without even knowing it. We boast about binge watching Netflix. We pay to simulate manual labour by going to the gym. We have watches and gizmos that tell us when to stand up. So we do actually live in a pretty lazy society. And we always like to signpost that we're going on holidays. We imagine that, whatever we're doing now, it's going to be more exciting when we go to Disneyland in a couple of weeks. So, we have to tell people that we're doing that. We pay a fortune on doing that. We count down the days to doing that. So we're actually obsessed with our leisure time, but it seems people are dead against the idea of analysing.
So they want this thrill, something that shakes them out of their normal, comfortable, everyday life, but they don't want to work too hard for it. They want it served to them in bite-sized pieces, don't they?
Exactly, and that's exactly what we get. That's why the parks and the psychology and the sociology that goes into the designing of these rides is so smart, because it knows exactly what we need. We want to appear to be challenged by these rides, which do a very good job of looking dangerous, because then, if they're not dangerous enough, we're not going to be able to boast to our friends and, put on an Instagram and Facebook afterwards. So,
well, the whole rocket launcher thing compared to the merry-go-round, I mean, it doesn't compete, does it?
Right. It doesn't. And most of my research kind of focuses on the pointy end, the scary, high-tech bits.
Okay, let's get to the basics here for a second. What's your favourite ride before we go into why you're doing it? My
favourite ride is actually, it's getting on a bit. It's a launched roller coaster called Top Thrill Dragster in the United States, in Ohio. And it's 0 to 220 kilometres an hour in 4 seconds, and it's over 420 feet high. And it's just,
good grief.
It just has it's a one-trick pony, and it's quite a pony.
And that gets your heart in your mouth, I imagine.
It's terrifying. Oh. It's really, really scary. And I get scared on these rides. I'm not trying to pretend I'm so cool about it. I get scared on height-based rides, drop rides in particular. And I'm sitting there with, my hands shaking before these things take off as well. But I think that's part of the fun.
But hey, you're getting paid to do it, not paying to do it. So stop your whinging, yeah. Do you, as a leisure thing yourself, jump out of aeroplanes, go bungee jumping? Do you do any of the actual things, or
Absolutely
you're more
not.
into the made-up stuff?
Hell no, that's actually dangerous. I prefer my thrills neatly packaged. Thank you very much. My parents make fun of me because my parents, there's, sorry, Mum and Dad, 65 and 67, and they jump out of planes, and they always make fun of me like, oh yeah, you think you're so cool, but we're the ones that jump out of planes.
Yeah, we're doing the real McCoy and you're just pretending.
Exactly.
So it's about make-believe, the whole thing that you're researching, the thing that you're looking into, trying to understand why. You're taking that a little bit further, aren't you?
I am. I'm moving into virtual reality amusement rides now.
Because we've all heard of the virtual reality headsets, the ones you can get with some brand phones where you can have everything in 3D and turn around and see sort of things behind you and believe you're underwater. This is taking it just a little bit further, though.
It is, and there's various ways of looking at virtual reality amusement rides. So, first of all, you can do what you did. You can stick your phone into things like the Samsung Gear, Google Cardboard, and look at fairly simple but still effective when they're done properly representations of being somewhere else or going on a ride. Or there's a hilarious app you can download called Crazy Swing, and it's just a humongous swing through a city, and it's very effective. And I look at it through Google Cardboard, and I've shown some people, and they can't stand up while they're doing it because it's simple and it's effective. Then you take it to the next level, and you have rides where it's a real ride, it's an existing ride, but they've augmented it by putting a virtual reality headset on it. So you're actually seeing something different, but you're still experiencing the same drops and turns and G-forces and acceleration of a real ride, but you're seeing something else.
It's messing with your mind, isn't it?
Very much. And the cool part about virtual reality is that the human brain doesn't take that much to be tricked. You have a good quality audio-visual presentation inside these headsets, and you match it with, either being on a simulator, I should have mentioned that before, either being on a simulator, which simulates the movements of what you're seeing, or a real ride, and then couple that with some physical effects like getting a little blast of air here and there, or a splash of water in the face, whatever, when it's synchronized with what you're seeing, and your brain actually believes it's there. And the thing about VR is, it's definitely a technology that they're not into, or they don't get it until they try it. And then you see this sudden conversion that people go, I get it. I really, really get it. And then people start thinking about, where else they can do it. And people can bring it into their homes, like I've been talking about as well.
Isn't it a bit scary that we're pouring so much time and money and effort into living an experience that isn't real rather than just going and living the actual experience? Absolutely.
I mean, one of the topics that I spoke about at TEDx was called What's Wrong with Reality? And at the bottom of all this stuff, going to theme parks, binging the Kardashians, creating little fake worlds that we do on social media of ourselves, and these high-end or even low-end VR amusement experiences and games. So games definitely use a lot of VR. You're really sort of going somewhere better. You're actually saying that in some ways, if you suddenly realise you've been playing a game for 4 hours, then it sort of says that outside that game, it's not that exciting. So you do sort of... I see these things as the icing on the cake, not the cake. I mean, they're totally awesome, and I love researching them. I'm crazy about them anyway. But it's that they're the icing, and when they become the cake, you sort of...
Then you've got a problem.
Yeah.
It's actually put it down, turn it off, get outside.
Yeah, like make your life good, and then these can be the icing as opposed to you have to escape to these things.
So virtual reality theme parks then, we could do all this, visit all these places, have all these experiences from the comfort of our lounge room. Yes,
I mean, you can now experience a lot of rides in VR. So, I mean, they're filmed in 360-degree video, and you can choose that on YouTube or whichever system you're using and get a really realistic experience of being on these rides. There's some park experiences where you can, simulate walking around a park and then, in some ways getting on those rides. So you get a sense of being there. And then there's an incredible group that I'm visiting in the US on this research trip that create motion platform simulators that are connected to a VR headset. So imagine a super fancy chair. You're sitting in a super fancy chair with a VR headset on, and this chair is synchronized. The platform that the chair is on is synchronized perfectly with what you're seeing. So if you're on a ride, a roller coaster, or, racing car, whatever, the data is being sent through to the platform, and it moves in perfect synchronization. And the people behind these platforms have actually they've actually done some wonderful research that really they understand how to trick the brain. They understand that you only really need to simulate the onset of a movement, and as long as you're looking at something believable in your headset, the brain just fills in the rest.
Well, you're preempting, you're expecting that tilt to the left or whatever, and so you've talked yourself into it, haven't you?
You absolutely have. I mean, and a lot of theme park rides where you can see what's coming, ones that are in the dark or going backwards, you're preempting, you're waiting for that corner, you're getting ready to go upside down, you're doing all those kind of things, and that was built into the research in these motion platform simulators, and they're about $15,000 US. So you're not going to pop down to the shops and get one today, but it's not beyond the reach of some people, and the experience is it's almost disturbing how real and immersive and amazing it feels. And you sit there and you go, okay, so I can get on rides. They don't just do rides, they do a bunch of other things. You can walk around a bunch of historical sites from history and parts of the world that you're not going to go to. You can walk through Disneyland, you can go for a wander, through Paris. You can do all these different things. And when it comes to the crunch, they can move you in exactly the way they need to move you to make you feel even more immersed. It's not a crazy thing to say that in the future, people are going to spend a lot more time at home, possibly to the point where it changes various parts of society. I mean, because you look at video stores. 10 years ago, people wouldn't have thought that they were going to go out. But
Ever,
now we just pull them all down from the internet. So me suggesting that when the technology gets better, it will have an impact on parks. It sounds probably a bit rash now, but not when you've seen the really crazy and really convincing technology that's out there and is becoming more available to people. When you go, that's actually really, really cool, and I can get a pretty accurate feeling of being on this ride or having this experience on the other side of the world, and I can just do it at home.
And it's a safe way, as you said, to experience that adrenaline rush.
It's very safe. I mean, it's
unless you fall out of your armchair in the lounge room, yes. which
that would be unsafe.
I can see happening. I've seen a couple of those social media videos where they've got Granny with it on for the first time, and they're shrieking
and they lose their mind,
clutching the arms of the chair. And
I love those.
Is there a danger then that we'll get our thrill seeking while sitting on our fat backsides? It's not going to help us get out and exercise, is it?
No, it's not. And I've used the shot from Wall-E where, people are so fat they don't even walk around. They just get sort of ferried around on little hovering things with screens in front of them. Because, that's kind of way in the future, and it's sort of crazy to think of us going that way. But we're already fat from not doing enough exercise. We have far less physical exertion in modern Western society than we used to. And as we get older, most of us is more worried about how do we stop getting fat as opposed to how we're going to be eaten by saber-toothed tigers. So we're kind of already heading down that path. And when there's new technologies like this which encourage you to stay at home more, it's possible that we may be heading in that direction.
And just to finish up, the one that I had to really ask about was simulated water slides. How can you explain? Please explain.
Well, it's two things, and it's odd enough to talk about. I'm going to confuse things even more by talking about two different versions of simulated water slides. So the first one is a company in Germany, in Bavaria, who spoke to me after they saw my previous documentary about roller coasters. They're called Vegan Melzer. They spoke to me about the wanting to create a virtual reality water slide. Now, they are makers of water slides. They make water slides all over the world, and they're very cool. Actual, real water
slides.
What
we're talking about. Yep, you can touch and feel it. Yep,
and go down and get wet in it. And what they're interested in was creating a VR experience. So you would be going on the water slide. The one that we targeted is a sort of a kind of a modest, slightly older water slide, which a lot of these experiences start with slightly older rides, and they jazz them up. And then you put the VR headset on and you see something different, but you still experience the same splashes and dips and launches of this particular water slide. So really what they're doing is just taking the existing drops and turns and splashes and amping them up, like making them much more extreme in the virtual reality experience, because VR is very good at being able to enhance what's already there. So there's that. And
so what would you be seeing then if it's not just, if you're going down a water slide, you're inside a tube type thing, or it's an open air one, what would you be seeing in the VR thing?
Well, in this one, the vision is that you're kayaking on an extinct volcano, as you do. and basically as soon as you start, the volcano starts going off. So you're kind of dodging lava pools and this, that, the rest. And when you go to the launch points in the rides where you get launched up hills by huge jets of water, we're saying that that's actually the lava, and we're able to incorporate hot air and cold blasts of air and all sorts of stuff like that. So you eventually go into a lava pit at the end and die, which is a terrible shame, but these things happen.
You're listening to Morning Ireland on RTE Radio 1.